It's a feature that allows any broker to pay StreetEasy or Zillow to be the main point of contact for listing. Pam, you've been very vocal about it. In fact, you've gone as far as saying you won't allow your agents at Corcoran or City Habitats to use their marketing budget to be a premier agent. Howard, you on the other hand haven't said much about it. Do you want to share your thoughts with us today?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me 10% of the gross to get more ticket sales and announcing Pam and I. They had a much smaller room before they signed the two of us up. I hope you're getting the same 10% that I'm getting, Pam. If not, fairness, I'll give you half of mine.
It won't even pay for your suits, so don't worry about it.
So, you know what? I mean, I think it's much too early to tell what the Premier program is going to do long term. Short term, we know, we see it. On the other hand, you have to say to yourself, unless you're a buyer's agent, which I understand completely, but most people, most really great brokers in the business are listing agents, much more so than buyer's agents. So what will that mean? That may mean that they'll get a few less direct sales than they had before. You know, so be it. I don't really lose sleep over it. And there'll be something newer also. Don't forget, News America, Murdoch is working on a whole new platform through Realtor.com. And there's so many others out there that it's going to be hard to tell how it plays out. We know initially, obviously, the traffic is down. If you're not the premier agent, what that equates to, yet no one really knows.
Pam, you still feel the same way about premier agents? You feel like it's unfair to the listing brokers, which basically is your business and Howard's business?
Well, I think our business is both listing brokers and buyers brokers, but in some ways it doesn't really matter what I think. If I make a statement that Corcoran is not going to allow agents to use their ad budgets for a premier agent, is because it's simply not possible to do something like that. And of course, all of our listing agents at all the companies are very upset. They feel like people are squatting on their listings, but I think we have to face reality, much like Howard just said. There's a lot more of this kind of thing to come, and Premier Agent, you could see how successful it's been across the country because of the amount of revenue that Zillow derives from Premier Agent. And all you have to do now, which I've been doing because I've been watching it carefully, is go online and see who's buying it. And there are a lot of people that are buying Premier Agent. And what that tells me is if you're not a listing agent or you're trying to get into this business and you need a way to get clients, people have bought into this as a way to find buyers. Is it the best thing for the consumer? Many would argue it's not. Others will argue it is. If I'm a listing broker, I hate it. If I'm a buyer's broker, I'm going to try it.
But you're not allowing your brokers to market as premier agents, not with your budget.
Absolutely not, and I don't think anybody really can. We have over 1,000 agents, and if you've seen the prices of this program, you could be spending upwards of, and there are companies now that they are making their whole living by becoming, what we call these Zillow brokers. They're complete lead generation brokers, and if you go on Premier, you'll see who they are. The names are quite well known now in New York because that's who's calling your agents. So they could be spending $20,000 a month. How do you do that with 1,000 agents? Even $10,000 a month.
When there are issues like this that are striking the entire market, and you guys have such a great control over, the city in terms of the residential market, do you guys ever pick up the phone and call one another and say, hey, we need to come together on this, or we need to have a message about this to all of our brokers?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's laws against some of that type of thing. It's called antitrust. So I will not admit that Pam has been calling me about it all the time. And I will recommend a good lawyer to her. But
You would love me to be in jail. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. No, Pam. I like competing against you. It's not that tough. I don't want someone else to come in and do a better job. Again, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it's too early to tell. And no, we don't do those type of things. We could talk to each other about something we don't like, but we're surely not going to try to influence each other on what we should do and what's best for our company. And they're two different companies, don't forget. So my company is much more entrepreneurial. Pam has a big, corporate parent behind it. She has more rules than I do, which probably means I could never work for her company. and she couldn't survive in my company. It's two different disciplines and two different ways of looking at things.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Does the industry as a whole have the ability to unify, in a coalition, like when issues rise up? I mean, where was Rebney throughout this whole thing, throughout the whole premier agent thing?
I think Rebney is doing their best to be there, but you have to have alignment amongst the industry in order to get things done. As Howard said, neither of us are interested in collusion and what happens with an accusation of that. So we rely on Rebney. We just want to be treated fairly. But there are a lot of other companies out there, and not all of them feel the same way that I might or that Howard might, and everyone needs to have a voice, and everybody wants to be heard.
And another potential idea, I think Andrew Heiberger sent it to me. He said, why doesn't Rebney just do an MLS?
If you guys decided to come together and say there will be an MLS tomorrow, there will be an MLS tomorrow. I mean, wouldn't that be great?
Great for who?
I don't know. Wouldn't that be great? Would an MLS be good? Personally, I think it would be good for the whole market because then everybody would have access to the
Well,
same.
it would surely probably be the end of their Premier Agent program, for sure. Would it be good or not? Requires a lot of thinking. I'm not. Look, like everything else in life, there's going to be positives and negatives. Who knows how it plays out ultimately? But it could be something to be thought about. Andrew, thank you for thinking of it because I didn't think of it. If it works out bad, I'm going to say it was your idea.
Recently there's been a lot of cases with non-competes, and in the past there's been non-competes, but no one's really tried to enforce them. How do you guys think that plays out in your business, in your individual businesses for non-competes? Do you support that? Do you support having non-competes, or you think it's impossible to enforce? Well,
we absolutely support them. Not only do we support them, we have been using them for many, many years. And there's certain intellectual properties, there's certain knowledge that you get by working at a firm, and as long as they're legitimate non-competes, they'll hold up. And I think you've seen them hold up several times, and I don't see anything wrong with them, and I think it's sort of comical when people say there shouldn't be a non-compete. They do hold up as long as they're done in a proper way.
I will say this, that we really didn't have any non-competes until recently. But after a while, when you get beat up because of everyone else's non-compete, then you sort of feel stupid that we're the only one that doesn't have it. And so it affects us the most. We did not have it because I thought there was anything bad about it. I think we just didn't have it because that was the history of Douglas Elliman. But now and going forward now, surely for key people and management and executives, high executives, we do have non-competes.
Let's talk about different approaches to new development marketing. Howard, your approach to new development business is to hire star brokers and give them new development business, which has been great in helping you recruit star brokers. Pam, you on the other hand, you have your dedicated teams for new development. How has each strategy panned out? I mean, clearly, Elliman has definitely taken a bite out of Corcoran Sunshine in the last couple of years. So that seems to have worked for him in some degree. What do you think?
I'm very happy with where we are with Corcoran Sunshine, and I think I'm very fortunate because I have the best team in the business. As far as I'm concerned, I have Kelly Mack, who leads Corcoran Sunshine, with an incredible team of people. And our philosophy, and again, this is our philosophy, is the way we work for developers is we are, especially on the larger sites, we're committed, and the people that work there are committed only to that developer and only to that site. On the smaller sites, I think the Elliman model has worked, and certainly it's worked well for them. They've had a lot of successful projects, but we each have our own way of doing things. You can't, there's not, it's not vanilla. It's not just white bread here. It's different models and different ways of competing.
It's hard to argue with anything Pam said about that. I'll say this, that what I will say is that her model is a much better way for the company to make money. There's no question that her new development department is much more profitable than ours. Although I look past it, being an entrepreneur, I have that privilege of looking past that and say, we're building our company doing it that way, we're recruiting great agents doing that way, so if we make a little bit less money or a lot less money during our growth mode, it's okay. I don't really see any negatives to it other than the money part of it, and I'm willing to invest that money to build. So it works good for her. The way she's doing it works good. And by the way, I know she has great people in our department because we've hired 6 or 8 of them in the last couple of years that work for us now. And I will say they were better than anyone else I could find. So kudos to you for hiring great people.
Thank you. I have to say thank you to Kelly for that. Look, people think I get upset about that. I don't. I'm actually very proud of it. I have so many of my number 3 and 4 people that get promoted, their salary gets doubled, and they become number 1 person at the next company. So I think that's good for them. It's good for us. And you know what? Frankly, people deserve to move up. And I'm just proud of the fact that we are known as really being a great place to train people and to learn. And for many of our top people, they've been with us for many, many years. And some who leave, you know what? They come back.
Well, but it's definitely made an impact in terms of recruiting, because when Howard goes to somebody and says, hey, I'm going to give you a new development, and everybody knows there's good money in new developments, it's hard to keep even your most loyal brokers to stay there when they're tempting them with so much money.
You know, you could look at it that way, or you could say then I have some of brokers from other firms, including Howard's, that come to me and they say, I'm really upset. All these people are getting new developments and I'm not getting one. I mean, it's just the way of the business. And I think as an agent, you have to decide where you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to specialize in. And I think Howard would agree with me on this. New development, it's not so easy. I've had agents that have gotten really into it and they say to me, oh my God, Pam, you were right. Do you imagine I have to go to weekly meetings, I have to do all this, I haven't gotten paid in 3 years, then I have to split it 3 ways, and then you have to pay the company. I said, what do you think? You just show up and they hand you a big check? This is a very, very, big investment by developers, and you have to take it really seriously. It's not a gift that Howard is handing someone. They're going to work once he gives it to them.
Yeah, I agree with Pam's comments on that. No question about it. Everyone seems to think it's easy. I remember a broker we had that decided they want to do new development, and she started working on it about 06 and 07 and basically lost her whole resale business because she spent so much time doing it. And we didn't have much support in those days for the new development, so she was sort of doing a lot of it on her own. And then 08 and 09 came, and she didn't do one project. Every project that she thought she was going to get to do, she didn't do. She then left and went to a competitor, and when she sent out her announcement and stuff, she sent it to me and told me that she went there to specialize in new development. So I sort of laughed because it was a company that wasn't known for new development. And I just wrote back and said, I hope your career at this company is as good in new development, worked as well as it did at Douglas Elliman.
Speaking of money and profits, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we did a story about how Douglas Elliman in the first quarter of 2016 had 7.1 million in profits, and then this past quarter, you guys did only about 100,000 in profits. Do you want to sort of fill us in on that?
Sure. I mean, we invest a lot of money in our company. That's, again, the advantage of an entrepreneurial type company. So we stepped up our efforts in hiring, and we stepped up our efforts in marketing. Plus, we've opened new regions. It's very tough to make money in new regions they open. So we're South Florida. South Florida is now profitable. We have 900 agents in South Florida and 19 offices. We're in LA. LA is very tough to get going because the broker payouts are so huge. Aspen is one of these markets, it's sort of like the Hamptons. Your whole year is based on a few very high price sales. But in all those markets in the beginning are losers. Okay, and then also it depends how the new development money comes in, because you're spending and spending, and until you have those closings. So obviously the first quarter we didn't have many of those. But having said that, I don't think we're the only one, that didn't do too well. In looking at Reology's results, they had a substantial loss. And when they don't report Corcoran separately, but they report what they call Reology-owned real estate brokerage services. And that's Corcoran, City Habitats, and Zip Realty. Zip Realty is an online company that doesn't do anything. And that group lost $26 million. So you could assume that part of that, unless they want to give us a financial statement, part of that came from the losses in Corcoran.
Pam, did you guys in fact lose $26 million?
Howard, afterwards I'll be happy to show you mine, okay? Because I looked at our financials, Corcoran's, and I compared them to yours. And I'm glad you're investing, but our CapEx last year was $14.5 million, and projected. Yours was $3 million. So I think we do a great job of investing. We don't rely just on new development closings, but we have a lot, and we have a good pipeline. And as you've pointed out, you think I'm not an entrepreneur, but I started with Corcoran. There were 30 people there. I think I've been helpful in its growth, having run it for many years and starting the new development. So I think we have an entrepreneurial spirit there. And I would say this to you, I do have rules and I do have people to answer to. And you're right, I guess I couldn't work for you, or maybe I could and I wouldn't have it so tough, because if I return results of $100,000 a quarter, I'd be calling all of you here begging you for a job. We had no losses at Corcoran. Thank you.
Well, I guess City Habitats had a terrible year then. I don't know where else it could come from if it wasn't City Habitats. Anyone here? Any management from City Habitats? Any event. The CapEx is sort of disingenuous because that was mostly for your offices. We just spent $20 million rebuilding our 575 office. $20 million. That'll be in the next quarter, so you'll get to see the CapEx from us.
I should manage
and by the way, Pam, I didn't
facilities
say
projects also. If you're spending $20 million, come see our office. We spent like $5, and it's gorgeous.
Pam, I didn't say, by the way, that you were an entrepreneurial. I said the company, because of the Reality relationship, it's hard to be entrepreneurial.
I don't think anybody can argue that Pam is a leader in any way. I mean, she's done an amazing job with Corcoran, and that goes without saying. Let's talk about marketing. For the last couple of years, Douglas Elliman was everywhere, literally, and you guys became a national, in some cases, international brand where we saw you everywhere. You were on the back of Madison Square Garden chairs in the front row. You were at Art Basel, at the polo shows, and a lot of other highfalutin shows that I wouldn't know about. But that seemed to have come to a stop in the last year. What's the strategy there?
No, it hasn't stopped. We're just going through a slight touch-up on our branding. We're rolling it out. I think, I saw our marketing officer was here, but I think in the next couple of weeks. So we're doing the same thing. We're a big believer that in each market you need one big event that you should do consistently. A little event here, a little one there doesn't work. So in the city we have a few things, one being Madison Square Garden. In Florida we have Art Basel. We continue that every year, and we'll continue it into the future. In the Hamptons, we have the Hamptons Classic. I think we've been doing that for 12 or 13 years, and we'll continue that. In Aspen, we have Jazz Aspen. So we've been doing that since we opened in Aspen. So we spend our money on those. As far as our branding ads, which you may have not seen, which really means he hasn't gotten any advertising from us, is why he's bringing it up.
Come on, Howard.
Yet this year. So those will start. I think in the next few weeks, we'll start coming out with those. It's quite an extensive marketing campaign, so you'll see it every place.
But that wasn't an approach you guys had, prior to the last couple of years. It was an approach you applied in the last 2-3 years. Are you saying that approach worked for you guys? It actually helped the marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped in our recruiting. I think it helped in us getting new projects and new development. I think it helped in us getting better agents. I think it's done a lot for us. But that's the way we want to grow. So I'm less. Obviously, look, and I'm not saying this as a negative. Pam does a very good job as a CEO of a company that's part of Reality. Very good job. She watches the money, and she does a good job, okay? I am less interested. And by the way, she's incentivized to do that. When you're not an owner and you don't have stock and you can't look to say, I'm going to make this much when I sell, she, I'm sure, makes bonuses, and the bonuses are based on profits. So if she spends more and it doesn't come up, and most of this type of stuff doesn't have an instant result. So it's not like, I'm going to spend $1 million more in advertising and we're going to make $2 million more next year. It doesn't work that way, branding. So if she spends $1 million more in something, part of it comes out of her pocket. So she does what she has to do, and she does a very good job out of it. I just look at it differently. We're still in the building stage. We're still going into other markets. So it's just a different. It's not even philosophical. It's just a different business, the way we're doing it. And she's doing it the way that Reality wants it to be done and adding her influence on it and doing a good job. And I'm doing it the way I want to do it, and I think I'm doing a good job. So all's fair.
Well, your market share has increased, so it seems to have worked, so that's great. Pam, how has your marketing differed in the last couple of years?
Well, I think that Elliman certainly is much bigger than we are, and they've grown into a lot of markets that we have not been interested in exploring. We tend to be more strategic in our marketing. We're not as loud. And again, it's just two different ways of doing things. We never did a huge magazine. We don't spend, enormous amounts of money on Knicks tickets or on Art Basel, but that, as Howard said, is what he likes to do for his company. What we try and do is we do work with a much smaller advertising budget, and it's not Reality holding my hands behind my back, and trust me, I've got plenty of stock, I'll be okay. Nobody has to worry about me. But I do what I think delivers the best results for the agents. And my feeling isn't always to do like certain big events that I don't think benefit everybody, although they can be very strong messaging for the brand. But 2 years ago when we redid our branding, we had a very, what I thought was creative campaign that we had Annie Leibovitz do. So we try and do things that other people can't do. I have a wonderful chief marketing officer. We've got some interesting things going on now, and I think we've become very adept at getting a lot more bang for the buck for less money. And when you look at the results, even in the real deal with 44% less agents, we more than hold our own, and with spending in it, a lot less money. That's just what works for us.
What do you mean by even in the real deal?
Even in the...
Well, I know in the
Extraordinary
if we're
Real
going to
Deal.
talk about what the Real Deal said, so they had us as doing 8 of the top 10 deals that were done in New York City last year. And in the top 50 agents, we had 22. We had over 40% of the top 50 agents.
Well, ultimately, as real estate marketers, marketing is a key part of for your agents, for your clients, for the properties that you represent. So isn't marketing a key thing and something that you want to invest a lot of money and efforts, for your agents and for your clients?
Yeah, and our efforts it's one of the biggest efforts that we have at the company is how do we help agents elevate their game? How do we take them to the next level? How do they make more money? And we feel that spending money in areas that have direct impact on what the agents are doing, including beefing up our marketing staff, and we just built a new facility called Agent Studio, which is a great place for agents to get more training and more development, both for experienced and new people. So we try and put our money where we can see a direct result by the happiness quotient of the agents. I don't need to see Corcoran's, and I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying for us, it's not Corcoran style to just go out there and see their name in lights. Even with Corcoran Sunshine, all the branding, all the big buildings that we do, it's very small. For us, it's about the brokers, it's about the clients, it's about the customers, and that's just our philosophy. And some people will like it, and some people won't, but it's what works for us.
Let's talk about Compass. They started about 4 years ago, and since they came on the scene, they came in with a lot of money. And they started to sort of ignore the non-competes, and they started recruiting, which obviously hurt you too, probably more than any other firm. How do you guys feel about Compass, and what do you feel about their approach into the market?
Before I answer that, just to go back to the prior, I have a very simple view of the business, and I don't think Pam meant to say that we're doing it because I want to do the advertising. We're doing what we think is right for the agents. And my simple view of the business is that the buyers and the sellers are not my customers. The buyers and sellers are the agents' customers. My customers are the agents. So we do things in our marketing to try to help those agents prosper, make more money, and then we make a few dollars of it along the way. Compass, what can I tell you about Compass? So, one of the largest firms in LA is the agency, and he did an interview with The Real Deal in LA, and he basically thought that, I think I'm using the right words, it was disgusting how they do their recruiting, and that in 5 years, 3 to 5 years, in 5 years they would be out of business. And then after he said that, he said, "Sorry, Robert Reffkin." I don't agree with him. I don't agree that it's going to take that long for that to happen. I think that, it became a very, our business was always a very personal business, okay? And, you have personal relationships. They use robo-texting and things like that to try to get people to call them back and so forth. None of us do that. No one else does it. And I think that is they sort of look at themselves as not part of the industry. And they say they're in the industry, but then they do things. I'll tell you that I know many companies, including my own, okay, who do not want to send our brokers to their new developments when they're having a party. They want to have a party, invite our brokers to come to see the new development. Well, I personally believe they're really doing it more as a recruiting event. So why would I support their recruiting event? So I think the fact that they have very little new development, if they have any left, I'm not even sure what they have left, I think that that says it all. They don't have a good relationship with co-brokers in the industry because of what I just said. So how they could survive, originally, if you remember, they said they had this great technology to find buyers. Well, maybe what they can do now is spend all the money on doing the premier agent thing so they could find the buyers. Because all the technology people they still have a lot of technology people from what I understand, but I think none of them are the same as the original group that they had, when they started. So I wish them well. On the other hand, good luck. I don't see their plan happening.
I feel like that good luck could have been translated into something else. Pam, what are your thoughts on Compass?
Well, before I say that, I should say two things to Howard. One is I should say thank you, because when we are a firm that has a lot of new development, that has a lot of listings, and when I look at my monthly statistics and see who has sold most of Corcoran's listings, other than our own brokers, it is always Douglas Elliman. So thank you for being a good partner to us. I don't see a lot of other firms on that list, but I'm happy that Douglas Elliman is always at the top of it. And then forgive me, I should have said this in the beginning. Congratulations on your new appointment by POTUS. Very impressive. Howard was just appointed chairman of the Holocaust Memorial, which is pretty impressive. And I think it is important when you look at someone like Howard. He's not just running the Vector Group and Douglas Elliman. He is an important person, and he has a lot of things going on. And I think that he has a lot of things in his life, as do I. I love running the Corcoran Group, but I also have two great kids. I've been married for 27 years. I'm a very happy person. To me, Compass made a lot of noise. Now Premier Agent is making a lot of noise. In a couple of years, someone else will be making a lot of noise, and I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. Let's talk about expansion. Howard, you guys have been very active in going into cities, basically to cities that you like to travel to, like LA and Aspen and Palm Beach and all those places, which is great.
You'd like me to open in Oklahoma or Kansas or something?
No, it seems to work for you guys. Pam, you've countered with that LA is a loss leader, that the commission splits are too high. I don't know if New York brokers know this, but I think it's like a 90-10 commission split in Los Angeles. And you said that it's not worth the overhead or the commission split to go into places like Los Angeles and Miami-Dade.
Yes, that's true. We've already established I'm trying to make money, right, for Realogy. And by the way, one of the reasons I wouldn't want to go work at Realogy is because I would be traveling to Pittsburgh and Oklahoma and all those places. And I love being here. We do things that are the right strategy for the company. We are a New York-based company. We have a very successful operation in the Hamptons and Palm Beach and Delray. And our new development takes us all over. We have a great project, the Surf Club in Miami. We just signed up another 2 projects in Miami. But we're going to do projects where we think we can have an impact and where we think by doing that it enhances our overall brand strategy. And for us at the moment, these other markets haven't done that. And also by being part of Realogy, which also owns Sotheby's and Coldwell Banker, they're very dominant companies in these other markets, and there's no need for us to go in and all compete together. So for us, has been great. I think for Howard, that along with Knight Frank has been amazing for you because it's really pushed you out there as like the really big brand, and I think that's worked well for Elliman.
Thank you. I would say this, that Pam is right in the fact that markets like LA are very difficult. But the other reason for us to be in LA is for the new development market. You know, all of a sudden, LA is turning from a single-family home market to a high-rise market with a lot of new projects coming on. We've already signed up a couple of billion, maybe a little bit more, maybe $3 billion now. That hopefully will happen. As we know, always some fall by the wayside, but we have a couple of good ones that we sure are going to be built and we're going to be selling. So we think we have a chance. But the other reason is a very important one. The other reason is we want to be where the same customers go and the same customers travel. And our referral business is the best in the industry, bar none. And, you know, Pam could say, she can use Coldwell Banker here and, someone else there, whatever. But it's not the same. We own all our offices. Our brokers do a tremendous amount of business within the markets we're in referrals. And again, as to the entrepreneurial side of it, we don't tell our brokers how much they can get if they're making a referral or how much they have to pay their size. They can do whatever they want. We're all adults, assuming we're all adults in this business. If we have a city broker that wants to do something in the Hamptons and they have a Hamptons broker they want to do it with, and they want to share it 50-50, they could do it, unlike most of our other competitors where they have these rules that they can't do it, which always was sort of strange to me because we have so many city brokers that have houses in the Hamptons, and yet if they want to do something in the Hamptons, they can only get, in some of the other companies, they can only get a small referral fee. We don't believe in that. So part of the reason of the markets that we're in, look, the best money is always going to be made in New York City, without question. So I'm sure Pam and I agree with that. The most transactions, most reasonable payouts, and it's just a great business model. But these other markets are important to our strategy in building a place where the customers that we have in one market, a lot of them are the same customers, and there's a tremendous, again, this goes to doing something for the agents, they can have a tremendous, and do have a tremendous referral business amongst themselves.
So it's more of a platform for you guys. You're creating a platform that connects your buyers.
And by the way, we're ranked the number 4 residential real estate company in the United States. If you look at the first 3, they're all franchise operations. So it's basically, we're the biggest that is not a franchise operation. And I think that speaks for itself.
Pam, let me ask you, I'm going to ask you the same question, Howard. But what is the thing that Douglas Elliman does that you wish Corcoran could emulate? And who's the one exec you'd like to see from Douglas Elliman on your team?
Oh my. Well, there are plenty of things that Douglas Elliman does that I admire. I mean, I admire Howard's flexibility. I admire his ability to, turn around and write a check very quickly when he sees a new development that he thinks would be good for Douglas Elliman. I mean, I think that's great. Definitely has good seats in the garden. That's pretty good. And I mean, he's really smart and funny, and I think he's a cowboy in the way, and not in a bad way, in a good way, but he gets what he wants done, and I think that's it serves you well, and I think that's terrific. As far as an executive that he has over there that I want, if there was one, I'd have them.
So do you believe that that's the luxury, him being able to write a check, that's the luxury of being a private company rather than a public company?
Of course it is. I mean, but isn't he a public company too? Right, the ultimate company. I mean, so we could say Douglas Elliman's private, but they're not really so private. I mean, that's why they're releasing their financials and everything. Yes, it's nice to be able to write a check. And Realogy has said to me, Pam, if you think there's a great project, just call us, we'll write a check too. And I'm laughing, thinking, Howard literally goes in his pocket and pulls out the checkbook. I will have to explain everything from now until next Wednesday, and it's different. So he's absolutely right in saying it's different when we're in that kind of environment. But in the meantime, it served us just fine. I'm very happy with where we are in our new development business.
Now, for the record, Howard is the CEO of that company. That's the public company too. So he basically
So
answers.
if you become the CEO of Realty, you could operate quicker and more efficiently also. I would recommend you for that position.
Howard, now the same for you. What does Corcoran do really well that you'd like to emulate, and who's the one exec from Corcoran that you'd like to see at Elliman?
I'd like to have Pam, but I don't know what position exactly. I'd have to think about that for a while. But I think she's very talented. She's very talented financially. So I think we kidded about that over the years, But I can't think of really, look, I could say the same thing, whoever we wanted, we have already. I mean, we have a plethora of former Corcoran executives and brokers, a bunch of them being here. The ex-COO that was then an office manager is now our COO. Their PR person is now our PR person. The human resources person is now our human resources. I think our old human resources person is your human resource person. A couple of managers have gone around a few times, in a circle, which seems to happen in the industry. So I think it's working pretty good the way it is. I think that we could have our disagreements and say things that maybe sometimes we're sorry to say. I do that more than she does. But I would say all in all that we both respect each other's companies, and that's why we're happy to support their projects and they're happy to support our projects. And I don't think she's nice enough not to say it, but I don't think either of us would say that about Compass.
Now, Howard agreed to do this on the last minute, and I really appreciate both of you guys being here. But I know
She
Howard
was going to do it herself and no one was buying tickets?
What's
We both agreed at the end, didn't we?
I have to get Howard off the stage. I promised him by 1:15. I want to get some final thoughts from you guys. Some of the higher part of the market, the higher end part of the market is sort of stagnant. What sort of message do you have for your brokers and the developers that you guys are representing to sort of pep them on and push them through this?
I think reality wins in this market. Sometimes we part ways with the developer because we don't agree on a strategy. And often that strategy involves where's the market today and what is the proper pricing of your product. And there's two things a developer can say. One is, but I have to get those prices. I must get those prices. And the other is, what can I realistically get? And anything in this market, whether it's a resale or it's a new development, if it's overpriced, it's not moving. And you see entire buildings now that are not represented by either Howard or myself that just aren't moving. And then you see huge success stories, things that open up that just fly off the shelves because they've been well positioned by the new development team that's working on them, and they've been well priced. There's no forgiveness for overpricing in this market.
Yeah, and I thank Corcoran for the great job they did on 220 Central Park South because it helped us sell a $260 million apartment. So
I should thank
good job. Well, we can thank you. We can thank each other. As far as the high end of the market, we see it to be pretty strong in the last month or so. We sold a $45 million. I think some of this has been in the paper. Demi Moore's apartment we sold for $45 million. We have a $55 million deal at 15 CPW, a $40 million deal there. A couple of new deals at 520 Park, a $36 million deal at 432. I mean, this is all like in the last 6 weeks. So I think the high end is, I shouldn't call it the high end. I guess that's the uber high end, in all fairness. The old high end, which to me was something like 10 to 20, I think that's still relatively slow.
Well, I want to thank both of you guys for participating in this.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank
And I want
you.
to thank everybody here for being here.